Hey everyone, Dan here. We are after market close on Wednesday, July 21st. We're going to take our daily look at SoFi. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, ideas, opinions. These are not intended to be, nor should you construe them as, investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work, make your own decisions based on what you see. Okay, so SoFi having nearly 10% uptick today, something that we haven't seen in a very long time, and boy did it feel good. That said, I would just caution folks, we've seen green days in the past, we've seen big green days in the past, and we've seen them followed by pretty solid sell-offs periodically. So while I'm very bullish on SoFi, you know that my targets in the later half of 2022 is $50. Feels like an impossibility at the moment, right? But I'm very, very bullish on SoFi. Go back and look at my SoFi price targets video if you haven't yet. In the description, I link a playlist that has all of my SoFi videos. And in there, I go through all of my bullish price targets and why, from a company perspective, why I think SoFi has so much upside potential. That said, I myself have to, refrain from being too overjoyed by one green day. It just feels, as I'm sure you know, like such a relief to at least temporarily stop the bleeding. But I wouldn't let that sort of cloud judgment or make you overly exuberant just based on one green day. I think we have a long way to go to the upside. And there's going to be pushbacks, even if we do get some really good uptrend happening. There will be pullbacks and pushbacks, and things will happen that we would rather not see happen. But overall, exciting that today was what it was. And let's unpack it a bit. So in last night's video, the big thing that I was screaming about was the volume, right? We need the volume to pick back up and ideally buy volume. And, it's what I said in the video. And we saw just that today. So we saw volume kick back up over 27 million today, dragging the average to 10. So it's been dragging itself up a lot. Now, I think in last night's video, I was looking to pin this somewhere around the 40 million volume range. And I still think that that is what's sort of going to help us significantly claw our way back into the 20s and then start building, true price strength from there. And so that's still what I'm going to be looking for. But let me highlight the volume here. I mean, you look at how nice of an uptick this was compared to the last several trading days. This is a really, really good start if it can continue. That's, of course, going to be the question, right? And we'll try to figure that out a bit here. Now, if I scooch this over, if it'll let me. Well, it's going to take a minute. So let me just remind everyone before we get too deep into the video, tomorrow, which is Thursday, Friday, and next Monday, I'm going to be traveling those days. I have every intention of putting out my daily, nightly SoFi video, and I don't intend to have to miss any of those. But if for some reason the Wi-Fi sucks and it won't upload, or the space just isn't conducive to being able to get a video out, I will still use the create a post function on my YouTube, and I'll put a post up with some screenshots of whatever it is that I'm talking about and seeing, and then I'll just put a list down of like the components of how I would think about unpacking the day. So won't be totally out of touch. But again, I hope that I can just do the videos as I would normally do and that we don't really see any hiccup. But just in case you see a post instead of a video, that's why, and just know that it'll be temporary, and at the latest that should switch back next Tuesday. Okay, so now that this let me close, thank you very much. Obviously we haven't needed this 1465 support zone, and it did. What I mentioned in last night's video was basically, that it came down and it double dipped from the well twice, right? And then it came back and made a third attempt down. And what I was sort of looking for and saying was that it was, really could be a positive sign that it wasn't needing to stretch all the way back down to the 1465 support level again that it was catching support just above that and not dipping quite as low, basically not doing 100% retracement completely, very close, but not quite. That to me said, if it could hold there and build off of that area, that all of that buying pressure that previously existed around 1465, that price has started to raise. And so folks, institutions, retail, whomever, are jumping in and seeing buying opportunities in SoFi at higher and higher price points. Now, I know it's sort of like a drop in the bucket, right? Not coming down to 1465, just coming down to, I don't know, what was the low on this day? 1487. So a little bit splitting hairs there, but truth remains still, it didn't come down all the way to the support level. And just, not even thinking particularly about SoFi, just from a charting perspective, when you see that happen and you see a trend potentially reverse from that point, those are really good indications that the buying pressure is there at higher price points. Now, I'm not saying that we reverse trend. We have a long way to go. I would basically like to see what the rest of July holds in order to really start to feel that we have done anything resembling reversing a trend. Also, we should just keep a strong eye on the MAs. These will be the indicators that will give us sort of that more objective view of whether or not the trend has reversed or not. Just a few days ago, just on the 14th and then the 15th, the 20 had a bearish crossover below the 50. So that's, the most recent move is obviously bearish, and obviously we're sitting underneath the MAs, which is a bearish trend. Now, the first level of resistance that we're likely to hit here, if we do continue upward, is the 20 MA. So likely to see some friction there, some potential pushback as it hits the 20. I don't know exactly where the 20 will be by the time it hits it, but it'll be relatively close to the 1791 resistance zone that we expect to hit anyway. You see all the selling pressure there and there that's accumulated, selling pressure here as well. That was sort of like unleashed onto the market when it was last trying to breach that price point. And so this, I'm hoping, is another one of those situations where, it double dipped on the resistance level here, came down and double dipped on the support level, and we see if the support is reversing, hopefully that means the resistance level is also going to be significantly weakened from all of the selling pressure that was already consumed in days gone by. But I would keep an eye as the candlestick, if it reaches the 20, sort of the reactiveness of it off of that. Now, once it gets support over the 20, that's what I think could carry it more easily over that 1791 zone. And then we see the next level is going to be the 50. Flipping that to support, to me, would give us the obvious liftoff to that 2046 resistance level that I have next plotted after the 1791. So that to me is the path, is the bullish path. And of course, we could get a lot of pushback even tomorrow, even in the after hours, pre-market, who knows? We could see shorts start to come in quite significantly. It's often a thing that they like to do. They like to pile on when a stock is getting pushed downward. And then once the stock starts to try to reverse, or there are indications that there could be reversal coming in, they often tend to jump in there and try to squash any positive sentiments, any gung-hoedness that people are feeling about the stock, to then drive the price down further. So I would be very, very vigilant on that. And of course, we'll look at the Ortex data to stay up to date with that day to day. On the indicator side of things, MACD here, we see a nice sort of squashing of this bearish momentum. So we're getting ready to flip, right? That's indicating as strongly as it can at the moment a bullish crossover on the MACD. Well, the last of which we saw here, which brought us, when the crossover happened, it brought us from 1743 at close all the way up to, that 2495 level. And then it didn't have a bearish crossover until 2183 close. So a nice percentage gain there, nice dollar value gain even. And, so could we see something like that again? Sure, we'll have to take it day by day and sort of unpack it as we go along, but it certainly is set up quite nicely. It's even lower. It's more beneath the baseline than it was by quite a bit when it had that bullish crossover. So it's all the way down here sitting at minus 1.22. When it crossed over there, the MACD was sitting at minus 0.38. So a bunch more run room, in my opinion, if it's able to catch this bullish trend and really exploit it. On the RSI, now this to me is also sort of the next big test. What does it do when it reaches the midline? So right here, right around 50 is the midline, right? What's it going to do? We see here it continuously sort of has a tough time as it reaches the midpoints, right? It's often a friction. It's not a frictionless area on the RSI. And then the question is always like, but when it blows through it, like then we make a nice run into overbought, and as it can't be held, then we make a run down toward oversold. So it's getting very, very close to the midline. It could certainly approach it tomorrow. So to me, that'll be a really, really big telling moments. If we do continue to have buying pressure tomorrow, what does it do at the RSI midline? So I'll be watching that and the MAs and the MACD very, very closely. Everything sort of signaling interestingly at the moment. I did think, okay, so let's flip over to the data side of things now. We'll look at the news first. I know we were laughing yesterday about this Jim Cramer stuff, which I still think is pretty funny. And we have sort of like dueling unusual options activity, funny enough. Bullish sentiment here, call volume of 41.59 on this. It was just a trade. I don't see that it was a sweep here. Open interest is just 12.96. So this to me looks like the Wall Street Bets crowd coming in and scooping up a bunch of just out of the money. Well, I guess from a percentage perspective, fairly out of the money calls with an expiration of next Friday. So the close-in dates and the huge rise in volume as compared to open interest is what makes this, considered unusual. We have this one from the 14th, which was a week ago. We had this bullish sweep come in. This is for October 15th. So these calls are sitting quite nicely now at the $15 strike. I thought that there was another one. Is that over here on Ortex? Let me see really quickly. Yeah, what's this one from the 15th of July? Yeah, here's the bearish sweep, $15 puts that expire next Friday. So this is what I was just referencing. So we have these dueling unusual activity alerts. We have these bullish trades. Again, because it's coming in as a trade and not as a sweep, that's what makes me think that's additionally think that these are likely just retail coming in by way of Wall Street Bets. And so we have huge volume here on the bullish sentiment side of things, and then also huge volume, 1157 versus 654 open interest on the bearish side. These are $15 puts that also expire next Friday. So both of these expire next Friday, and it'll be interesting to see who, if any, win out, right? It could just sort of stay around where it is right now, and everyone would expire out of the money and worthless. But it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Now, obviously, a bunch of what we see going on is driven by the retail sentiment. So we see here on Swaggy Stocks, which is a very cool site. You should check it out if you haven't. 12% plus of the comment volume on Wall Street Bets today was about SoFi. 158 positive sentiment comments, just 31 negative sentiment comments? Yeah. So really, really bullish over there on Wall Street Bets, and really nice to see SoFi occupying the top spot. We've been talking about it for several months, every single day. Sometimes it feels lonely, but we have some other folks who seem to be interested at the moment. So that's pretty cool. Now, I know there's a lot of differing info out there on the short interest. From what I can tell, based on a few different sources, here, Yahoo, Market Beats, they might not have anything up yet. Market Watch, is that what I'm thinking of? But anyway, a few different places showing really, really low percentage of the free float being shorted. Ortex still has just over 1%. And I think that that's probably correct. I think that the outlier here, FinViz, showing 40-something percent. Yeah, this I can't find represented anywhere else. So I'm ignoring that at the moment, but just highlighting it because I know that that gets sort of circulated a lot and socialized a lot. Now, the other big thing to keep in mind, let me tell you about a couple of things that I've done since yesterday's video. So yesterday in the afternoon, I put out a video about the lockup expiration period. I believe from my reading of the documents, from the news items that I showed in that video, and a couple of other things that I'll talk about in a second, I believe that the requirements of the lockup were met for the 83% aggregate at the end of June. Okay, and that a lot of the info that's being circulated about that coming up next week is a misunderstanding of what is represented. I went through this document yesterday. I'm not going to go through it again today. Go watch that video if you can. Again, in the description below, I link a playlist with all of my SoFi videos. That should be in there. If not, just look at the recent videos and you'll see lockup video. Now, the other thing that I want to mention about this is I put in a call last night to SoFi Investor Relations. I've not received a call back yet, but hopefully I will. And I just explicitly asked them. I said, here's, what we're looking at, the SEC documents, for example. Here's news stories that seem to be saying this. There's a ton of confusion out there. Could you help us out and just return my call and clarify the dates that anything has already, completed its lockup period, and for anything that has not, I would appreciate it. Obviously, when I get that information, return call from SoFi Investor Relations, I will happily share it here. But like I said, I don't have it yet. I do have two folks who say that they are on the inside. One, a previous employee who had an options grant that they then exercised, and another who was said that they're an early SoFi investor. Keep in mind, I don't know these people. I can't verify their validity or not, but they both came to me separately through different channels, and they both said the same thing, which was that their shares that they had, or the options that they had exercised, however you want to think of it, but that their lockup completed at the end of June, and that their shares were then tradable. Again, take that with a grain of whatever you want, but that's what I'm being told by those folks. The other thing is, we look at if it did end on June 28th, the volume goes from single-digit millions, 9, 7, 5, 3. We see this. Look at all these trading days back here, and then all of a sudden, it skyrockets. 56 million, 55 million, 27 million, 19 million. Now, an obvious reason for that could be just that there are now many more shares available to be traded that are actively being traded. How the volume would jump up that significantly without any of the lockups expiring seems very, very questionable to me. If you know how that could happen or why, feel free to put it in the comments below. Folks have been very vocal in the comments below. I honestly just don't have time to answer most of them, and I apologize for that. But I'd rather spend the time making the videos than answering all of the comments. But I do still appreciate the comments, and I think it's a good place for folks to share their interpretation of everything and get their 2 cents out there, because I don't want anyone to take anything that I say here as 100% correct or accurate. That's where you all need to have your own thoughts and opinions and ideas, and I appreciate you sharing them because I think it enriches, for the most part, the experience. But that to me seems pretty obvious. But go look at the lockup video. You'll see the news items that I highlight. I briefly mentioned the insider last night's video, and then today I had remembered that I had also previously heard from another insider. So these things just kind of come together to kind of lead me to my own interpretation of what's happened and the dates that it applies to. But I just don't like seeing all the confusion that in and of itself sucks, and I think that there's folks who could definitely clear it up. Oh, I did tweet last night also, I think several tweets. I tagged Chamath because I was like, hey Chamath, if you want to help retail, like here's a really good way to. Just let folks know, what are the dates? Did the SoFi lockup, was that sufficed already at the end of June for these 83%, or what's going on? He has not tweeted me back yet, but Chamath, if you hear this, I'm sure you will. We would love to know, and it would really, really go a long way to help people out and help sort of squash the disinfo or misinfo that's out there. And I also tagged a podcast that he's in, the All In podcast, in case anyone who monitors that account would see it. But those are the things, the outreach that I'm, trying to make headway with in order to clear this up once and for all, and sort of not have folks fall victim to bad info that's out there, even if that means that the info that I'm saying that I think is correct is the bad info. I don't want that to be the case either. It doesn't help me in any way, shape, or form, obviously. So hopefully we hear from Chamath or some of his buddies at the All In podcast or SoFi Investor Relations. But, I'll definitely share any info as I get it. All right, but I think that will do it for our video here. Congrats on the Green Day. Don't get too carried away. I hope that there's many, many more ahead. I'm making my plans in a way that clearly shows that I'm expecting bigger moves up over longer periods of time. But I would just say, be careful. Don't over-risk. Don't under-reward. Still make sound trading decisions based on sort of all of the info that you have, and try not to get wrapped up in the exuberance of one exciting day. That said, I hope tomorrow and Friday and next Monday and next Tuesday, I hope that they're all equally as exciting days. I would take plus 10% days every day moving forward to get me to that $50 mark. Then maybe I'll throw a little party. All right, I won't waste any more of your time. I appreciate you watching. I hope that your trading week is going well, and I will see you in the next video.